Instead of just predicting a good season today, we're going to have some fun and we're going to explore a great one by mapping out a best case scenario for the Washington Commanders that could end with a deep, deep playoff run. That and more right now on Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Commanders. I am David Harrison, your guy on the ground covering the Washington Commanders for WUSA 9 and right here with you 5 days a week. You can also find me writing about the Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com, and you can follow me on X at DHarrison82. I want to thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen or view, and a special thank you goes out to all of the everydayers, those of you who come through for every single episode. You already know it because I say it every stinking day, but I appreciate you today just as well. If it's your first time here, thank you. Welcome to the show. Hopefully you like what you hear and you come back again soon. Coming up on today's episode, it is the second part of our season preview. Yesterday, we dropped the first part, really going over everything we learned in the offseason, training camp, and kind of what it means looking ahead to the future. We are in week 1, ladies and gentlemen. On today's episode, we're going to have a little bit more fun with it. We're going to do our record prediction game by game. I'm going to tell you how I break it down. Told you yesterday, I think 10 wins. It's kind of the floor for the Washington Commanders this year. But I'm going to tell you what I think could actually be in store for 2025. And then we're going to go over awards. We're going to go over superlatives for the team, and we're going to go over national award nominees coming out of this team. All that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we're doing that thanks to FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if that bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets to use anywhere on the app. We're going to start this off with our season preview. Again, yesterday I told you that I think the floor is 10 wins for the Washington Commanders, and I got there by basically breaking down the segments of the schedule. Going 3-1 in the first 4 games, I think is attainable. And then going 3-3 in the next 6, winning in Spain, and then 3-3 through the final 6, I think gets you to 10 wins. And I think all of those stretches, that's certainly attainable. But I wanted to go game by game the way that I see it. And I'm not going to say we. A lot of times I talk in we, and I use that as kind of a communal type of wording for myself and Locked On Commanders listeners. I know that you all don't always agree with everything I say, even when I say we. But for this, I definitely wanted to specify this is my look at it, and it's my look at it as of early September and kind of the things that have gone down around the National Football League and just where we think we sit as far as looking at the Washington Commanders. So the hot start, the week 1 through 4 games, rather, first 4 games of the season. Again, like I said, I think 3-1 is kind of the minimum expectation. When you look at these games, you've got a home opener against the New York Giants, and you're on the road against the Green Bay Packers, at home against the Las Vegas Raiders, and then on the road against the Atlanta Falcons. Look, the Giants are definitely a better team this year, I think, on paper than they were last year. The Packers are no slouches, and then on the road, Lambeau, primetime, that's not going to be a cakewalk. The Raiders are a much improved team, I think, than they were their 4-win version last year. And even the Atlanta Falcons, I think they're going to be better with Michael Penix Jr. getting a little bit of experience last year, getting the reins this year. I think that's going to be an improved team as well. So no App States really on this schedule for the Washington Commanders. I've said that several times over the course of the offseason, but I do see this team going 4-0 here in this stretch. I think to get a win at home against the New York Giants to kick it off, win on the road against the Green Bay Packers. Micah Parsons dealing with the strained back. Apparently he's going to take an epidural type of painkiller to play week 1. I think that's probably a pretty bad move. I think if you're the Green Bay Packers, you just got Micah Parsons. I know Mike is a beast and a competitor, but man, if we're having to dope you up with things that people use to give birth to babies, you might need to shut it down a little bit. Just kind of saying, right? Raiders, again, they're going to be a really well-coached team, a really a better improved team. But I do think week 3, you're kind of getting them in the beginning of that development. It's going to take them a little bit of time to really get things kind of going in the right direction. So I think week 3, you're getting them at the right time to get a dub. And then on the road against the Atlanta Falcons, again, I think the Falcons are going to be better than they were last year, but I think the Commanders are going to be better overall. So 4-0 to start off the season. Mid-season gauntlet, right? The next 6 games. I told you, I think that, 3-3 is probably kind of like the realistic expectation that, if you don't want to be pessimistic, but you don't want to be overly optimistic, which, of course, as fans, by all means, be overly optimistic. But I do have them going 4-2 in this stretch. When I look at it, I think you're probably going to get your first loss of the season, week 5 on the road against the Los Angeles Chargers. That is one heck of a trip, man. It's all the way to the West Coast out there. They're not going to do, at least as far as I know right now, they're not going to do the full week like they did against Arizona. If that changes, then perhaps this prediction changes. But without that full week, even if you go like a day early or something like that, I think that's a really tough time difference to go through. The defense there is pretty tough. And Coach Harbaugh out that way, the West Coast Harbaugh, loves the ground and pound. He's really going to stress out the Commanders by shortening the game that way. I just think it all kind of adds up to a loss. Now, if the Chargers were coming to Washington, I think it's a win, right? So that's kind of the razor's edge that we're walking on there. Week 6 against Chicago Bears. I think the Bears are going to be better this year than they were the last time we saw them in Northwest Stadium. But I think the Commanders are also better. And oh, by the way, Jayden Daniels, knock on wood, not going to be dealing with a rib injury. So the Commanders get a win there. On the road against the Dallas Cowboys. Look, man, Micah Parsons was like one of the few things that really scared me about the Cowboys anymore. Now that he's gone, no DeMarcus Lawrence. They got decent secondary players, but we all already know this. The best cornerbacks in the league, if they have to cover for too long because pass rush isn't getting home, there's not a lot you can do there. And the Dallas Cowboys, as of right now, have no pass rush. Now I say that with a little bit of a shrug because Donovan Ezeraku, you all know every day especially, was my dude in the NFL draft process. We'll see if by week 7 if he's hitting his stride. So that could obviously make a difference. Week 8 at the Kansas City Chiefs, primetime game, back-to-back road games, going to Dallas, then coming home, then going to Kansas City. That's a tough schedule to run through. I think they take a loss there in Kansas City. Week 9 back at home against the Seattle Seahawks. I have no belief in Sam Darnold whatsoever. So the Commanders getting a win there. Week 10 against the Detroit Lions. This is actually one I kind of went back and forth on, but I am going to give the Commanders the win because the Lions are replacing both offensive and defensive coordinators. That's a huge situation. That should not be undertoned at all. That is absolutely the title of the book this year for the Detroit Lions. So until I see these coordinators getting this Lions team on the same page they were under the previous coordinators, I don't have any choice but to give the Commanders the win. By the time we get to week 10, things could be a little bit different. So 4-2 overall in that block. That leaves the Commanders at 8-2 entering the game against the Dolphins in Spain. I do have the Commanders getting a win over the Miami Dolphins. I think Joe Witt Jr. is going to be aggressive against Tua Tagovailoa and that Dolphins offense, which means Tyreek Hill probably going to get an explosive touchdown or maybe even 2. But I think the Commanders can withstand that, and I think they can do enough offensively themselves to uphold the victory and get that win. Week 12 is a bye, so you're 1-0 in those 2 weeks, 9-2 coming out of the bye. And in the final 6 games, again, I said I think 3-3 is probably the realistic expectation. I do have them going 4-2, win at home over the Denver Broncos, a win on the road against the Minnesota Vikings, and then back-to-back losses on the road New York Giants. Look, guys, the Giants are going to be better. Jersey in winter, it's a tough environment, so I'm going with an L there. Week 16, loss against Philadelphia Eagles at home. Week 17, win over the Dallas Cowboys, and a Week 18 win over the Philadelphia Eagles on the road, with the caveat being that when I went season predictions, I predicted every single game in the season, and the Eagles already had the NFC East clinched by Week 18. So, backups are starting. Jayden Daniels probably playing the first half. Marcus Mariota come in to wrap it up. So the Commanders get that win, but the Eagles win the division, unfortunately. Block record there is 4-2. Overall record 13-4. So I've actually got them going one game better. We do have a few caveat games that could go either way once we get into the season. But that's just kind of how I look at it right now, knowing what we know in September and trying not to project too much, right? So 13-4, the outcome there is a wild card berth because, again, the Philadelphia Eagles end up coming away with the division. Same win-loss record as the Eagles, but they end up with the tiebreaker overall. A note for the 2026 NFL Draft, based on my current season predictions, the New Orleans Saints end up with the number 1 overall pick. And if you're a college football fan, I kind of wonder, does that mean Arch Manning actually declares for the draft, leaves Texas so that he can play for Granddad's team, the New Orleans Saints? Wild card round, the Commanders defeat the Lions. Then they defeat the Niners in the divisional round. Commanders host the Los Angeles Rams in the NFC Championship game and end up facing the Baltimore Ravens in the Super Bowl. If you're calling me a homer, then you're probably not a Commanders fan, and it's weird that you're watching Locked On Commanders, but I appreciate you anyway, and it's okay if you call me a homer because it's all just for fun, so chill out just a little bit. For a 13-win season to become a reality, several key players are going to have to put up award-worthy performances, so let's take a look at who those team standouts might be. Coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. The NFL season is right around the corner, and you can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season is here. Everyone's researching, drafting, and building their championship squads. This year, I'm playing fantasy football on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too. Whether it's your first time or you're a veteran fantasy football manager creating your millionth league. After mapping out the 13-win season for the Commanders, you know I'm targeting guys like Jayden Daniels in all my drafts, banking on that hot start. And I do have Jayden Daniels as my quarterback in my money league, so I'm super excited about that. Also have running back Croskey-Merritt for what that's worth. Yahoo Fantasy is loaded with fun ways to compete, like the brand new Guillotine League mode, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated every single week, one by one, until there's only one player left standing. That person, of course, is crowned the champion. Or you can get your crew together and you can go head-to-head in a classic private league. If you don't have enough buddies to make a new private league, or you're all tapped out of all your private leagues, you can also join a public league. So the NFL season kicks off September 4th. Don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. Predicting a 13-win season is the easy part. It's the fun part. It's all fun. This entire episode is supposed to be fun. When somebody told our Locked On Titans host, Tyler Rowland. Tyler Rowland does a really great job. Hosts the Locked On NFL morning show. If you haven't checked that out, tons of energy. I mean, this guy could read you your mortgage contract and you would just be excited. You'd be like, oh man, this is the most exciting mortgage I've ever read. Because that's just how much energy this dude brings to Locked On Titans, but also Locked On NFL. So again, little plug for Tyler Rowland there. But anyway, Tyler Rowland did his season prediction episode already. Did a little bit of a short for it as well. And somebody came through and said it's unprofessional for him to do season predictions. And I'm sorry if anybody here agrees with that sentiment, but I will remind you, as we mentioned a lot of times, that football, the NFL, is a bunch of grown men playing a kid's game. Well, we are a bunch of grown men and women talking about a bunch of grown men playing a kid's game. So I like to keep things professional. I like to keep things business around here, as most of you know, especially everydayers, but it's okay for us to have fun just a little bit too. So that's what we're doing here in this episode, having a little bit of fun. We'll dive deeper into our first look about the New York Giants for week 1. And that's when we'll get back to a little bit of the X's and O's, the business of winning football games, or at least trying to see how the Commanders might win this upcoming football game. But it's okay to have fun at work. Even you can have fun at work too. If you don't have fun at work, hopefully you get to find a way to do that anyway. But breakout players are going to be important for this Washington Commanders team to have 13 wins in the regular season. That is what we're going to talk about next. But before we do that, we do have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. So go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you ahead of time for filling that out and helping us out. So we're going to do some team superlatives, team awards, team superlatives, whatever you want to call them. We're going to do an offensive MVP prediction, a defensive MVP prediction, most valuable player, of course, rookie of the year, breakout player of the year, comeback player of the year, most improved player, unsung hero award, and the biggest X factor for the 2025 NFL season. We'll start with the MVP of the offense. And you may not have heard, but the MVP award is a quarterback award. So if you're going to go offensive MVP, you got to go with the quarterback position. So it is, of course, going to be Jayden Daniels, but it also is realistically Jayden Daniels, right? Like if you're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles and you give it to Jalen Hurts and you're just acknowledging it's a quarterback award. If you give it to Saquon Barkley, then you're disregarding the trend of it being a quarterback award. And you're saying, no, we're just going to go with the actual player who's actually the most valuable to this Philadelphia Eagles offense, that being running back Saquon Barkley. On the Washington Commanders roster, however, it is quarterback Jayden Daniels, evidenced by the fact that when Terry McLaurin's contract was not done and Terry McLaurin's trade request was still on the table, which he says was a very serious request, not a ploy to create leverage, there were plenty of Commanders fans who said, you know what? Look at what Jayden did last year with Terry and a cast of a lot of people who most of them are not here anymore outside of Noah Brown and Luke McCaffrey. He can do good stuff with Deebo Samuel, Luke McCaffrey, Noah Brown, Jalen Lane, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I still think, obviously, the offense is better off with Terry and Jayden on the same team. I think most of us would have agreed to that back then. And, of course, now that he's re-signed, extended, we don't have to worry about finding out if we were right or wrong, right? But at the end of the day, Jayden Daniels will come away as the offensive MVP for the 2025 Washington Commanders. team MVP on defense. There are multiple candidates here. I kind of leaned Bobby Wagner, but if we also remember that MVP awards are also given out for stats, not necessarily just inherent influence and all that stuff. So I'm going to go with Frankie Luvu. I think Frankie Luvu is going to have tackles. He's going to have sacks. He's going to have fumble recoveries, forced fumbles, interceptions. He's going to have pretty much one of every stat you can have on defense, tackles for losses, quarterback hits, right? All those things. And I think second year in the system, second year playing next to Bobby Wagner, more comfortable in his skin, very, very confident coming off a very good season, but not so confident that he's not, putting in the grind, putting in the effort, all that stuff. I think Frankie Luvu is poised for a very, very good season. And when it all comes down, in the wash, I think statistically, when we look back on who had the biggest highlights and most highlights, all that stuff, Frankie Luvu is going to be your guy. Rookie of the year. There are some good candidates here, but I think overall it's going to be running back Croskey-Merritt, Bill. And again, rookie of the year awards tend to go to stat-driven positions. Pretty rare that you see a lineman get an offensive rookie of the year, award like that. So right tackle Josh Connerly Jr., depending on when he starts, when he fully takes over that job, I do expect him to fully take over that job probably by week 4, if not sooner. I think clearly he'll have a major role on this team, and a huge role on this team. But I think when it comes down to picking who the rookie of the year is, look, those yards, those touchdowns, those highlights, it's hard to beat that, man. If you're a right tackle there, not a lot of highlight reels of pancake blocks. You'll get some, but you're not going to get a lot of them, right? So Croskey-Merritt, Bill, I think is going to end up being this team's rookie of the year. Breakout player of the year, I'm going to go with safety Quan Martin. Quan Martin is a player that, look, I spent a good amount of the offseason defending. We had some people, fans coming through saying they got to go safety in the first round. They got to go safety in the second round. Had some other media members saying like they got to sign somebody or draft somebody to replace this dude, things like that. NFL.com during the offseason called him the most underappreciated player on the Commanders roster, and I agreed. And I told Quan as much the very first time I saw him this offseason. I've been talking to Quan a lot. Been talking to the coaches about Quan a lot. Dan Quinn said that he's very quietly becoming one of the leaders in the defense. And I think Quan is just poised, man. He's poised for a very good season. Call it a breakout season. So I'm looking forward to seeing Quan Martin. Third season in the National Football League, second season getting full-time safety reps. So he's another guy kind of like Frankie Luvu you're going to see this year really getting comfortable in his role. Comeback player of the year. The NFL likes to ask us as voters to stick to guys coming back from injury, not necessarily guys who are like, you weren't very good last year, but now you're good again. So like that's a comeback, right? So kind of sticking with that motif, I'm going to go linebacker Jordan McGee. A lot of Commanders fans didn't really get to see him actually play ball healthy until this last preseason game against the Baltimore Ravens. And I know the Washington Commanders got blown out of the water, but when you look at Jordan McGee's performance, you see everything we've been talking about in these training camp practices, even going back to last year, because Jordan did end up playing last year too, but he missed so much time that he wasn't really part of the scheme. He was just, by the time he got on the field, just, okay, let's get you some reps, let's get you some experience, right? Now he's been healthy enough. He did miss some time in training camp with another injury, unfortunately, but he's been healthy enough that you see him kind of integrated into the scheme more, and you saw a flash of that in that preseason game against the Baltimore Ravens. His IQ, his athleticism, ability been showing up a lot when he's been healthy at the training camp practice field. So looking forward to seeing him. Most improved player, then we're going to go Luke McCaffrey. And that's a little bit of low-hanging fruit potentially because he's already kind of been identified by the coaching staff as being the most improved. Didn't have, the greatest rookie season. I know some people expected him to have more of a rookie season. So the floor is also starting off a little bit low for him to jump off of. But I do think Luke McCaffrey potentially going to take another step here this year. Unsung hero, I'm going to go with tight end John Bates. Although he is kind of becoming Levante David of the Commanders beats. Levante David, Buccaneers linebacker, for a long, long time was the most underrated player on the planet to Buccaneers media members and Buccaneers fans. Now, eventually the national media and national fans kind of caught up and agreed that he's the most underrated player, underappreciated player. But the national media and even national fans also still don't really appreciate Levante David. John Bates is that guy for the Commanders. Commanders beat loves him. Commanders beat knows how valuable he is. Coaches obviously do. You, the Commanders fans, obviously do. I think this year maybe we start to see the national media, national fan base catch up with that just a little bit. Big X factor is going to be Deebo Samuel, man. He's the weapon. He can do a little bit of everything. He's got to be the X factor this season, not just for the offense, but for the Washington Commanders as a whole. So strong team success often puts individual players in the national spotlight. So let's explore which commanders could find themselves in the running for league-wide honors. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode of Locked On Commanders is brought to you in part by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers, you can bet just $5. And if your first $5 bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it's quick, it's easy, and it fits however you like to bet. We were just talking about the team superlatives, and on FanDuel, I can bet on a guy like Quan Martin to get an interception for his Breakout Player of the Year campaign, and for our team X Factor, Deebo Samuel to score, to say the first touchdown of the game. You can build a same game parlay, which every day, as you already know, I love those things. You can even jump in with live betting as the action unfolds. It's the best way to add a little bit more energy to Sundays. So if you're ready to do like I do and play the game on FanDuel, download the FanDuel app today by going to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders also brought to you in part by Upside. Hey, Locked On Commanders listeners, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind and get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Use our limited time promo code touchdown and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas that you already need, that you're already going to buy. That's real money you could use to then, I don't know, buy a jersey for the team's Rookie of the Year candidate, Croskey-Merritt. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but to be honest with you, it's totally legit. I ran down to one of the local gas stations and used it, and it worked like a charm. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Just download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play, and you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using promo code touchdown. Offers vary by user and location, so go to the upside.com website for terms and conditions. It's one thing to be the best player on your team. It's another level entirely to be in the conversation for the NFL's top league awards. And, you know, look, some really talented players on this team. NFL top 100 honorees, Laramie Tunsil, Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, Terry McLaurin, Jayden Daniels. Jayden coming in at number 21 overall in his first year on the NFL top 100 list. I fully expect him to at least be top 15, if not top 10. And if he does what I think he's going to do, and that is win the NFL MVP award, then he's coming in top 5, right? Like you got to come in top 5 after you win the MVP award, if not top, like be the top dude. Jayden Daniels, I do think, is going to be an MVP candidate in 2025. I think he's going to, I think for multiple reasons. One reason is the dude is talented. Second reason is this year he's in more control than ever before, and he's starting the season that way. A little bit of a teaser, Dan Quinn, Chick Hernandez one-on-one interview, WSA 9. We just conducted it Monday evening. It's going to drop on WSA 9 on the airwaves. It'll be up on digital, WSA9.com, all that stuff on Tuesday. I'll have a written article from that interview up on the website as well on Tuesday. But one thing that they talked about was that start last year, and that specifically that game against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and DQ like kind of flinched and was like, man, we did not play well. They didn't have their identity set, all those things. This year, they have their identity. They know who they are. They know who they're going to be. The quarterback is experienced. He's got control. The offensive coordinator is experienced. They got Deebo. They got Terry. I mean, my expectation, guys, is that they're going to hit the ground running here in week 1. I'm not, don't get too crazy and be like, oh, it's going to be like 42-3 against the Giants. Nothing crazy like that. But I do expect this team to look much better this week 1 than they did last week 1. That might be a little bit of low-hanging fruit and maybe a little bit of a no-duh situation. But you look at what Jayden Daniels was able to do. If he can start off ahead of the power curve, then imagine where else he can go during the course of this year. Then on top of that, let's be real here. MVP awards, they're popularity contests. One, your team's got to be winning. Well, we've already checked that block. I think the Commanders are going to win 13 games, apparently. Second thing is you got to be popular. Jayden Daniels is already popular. And then third thing, you got to be seen. 10 nationally broadcast games. 10 games where they either own the national audience or they own a share of the like a half of the national audience, including that Spain game where they're going to be the only game on. It's not prime time. It's, I don't know, early time, whatever the opposite of prime time is. But then you also have one more game they'd be flexed into because they only got 5 primetime games. I say only, but it's a lot. You've got 5 primetime games. You're allowed to have up to 6. So they could be flexed into a 6th primetime game as well. That means a lot of eyes are going to be on this team. A lot of eyes are going to be on Jayden Daniels. That's what you need, man. MVP award. The last 2 quarterbacks to win MVP in their 2nd year in the NFL, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. Let's make it Jayden Daniels, man. Let's just make it happen. Offensive player of the year. Typically, we go a different player for offensive player of the year than we do MVP. So I'm going to put down wide receiver Terry McLaurin. And man, what a moment of vindication it would be if Terry McLaurin won the offensive player of the year award. But when you look at what he and Jayden were able to do, again, kind of going back to that whole trend, he and Jayden didn't really get going until week 3. And then even then, there were multiple weeks where, remember, he was kind of shut down. I think the appearance of Deebo Samuel, the growth of Jayden Daniels, the growth of Cliff Kingsbury, I don't know that there's going to be a single game where Terry McLaurin doesn't have at least 5 catches and at least 50 yards this coming season. I know it's kind of bold, but I'm going to go ahead and put it out there anyway. Defensive player of the year candidate from this team, I think it's going to be Frankie Louvu. He's the defensive player of the year, defensive MVP candidate for me for this team. So again, I think Frankie Louvu has a first-team All-Pro season coming ahead of him. In fact, my league, we draft individual defensive players. My money league, I should say, one of my leagues, Frankie Louvu is my individual defensive player. So if you're counting, I've got Jayden Daniels, Croskey-Merritt, and Frankie Louvu all on my team. And no, I'm not a Commanders fan. I'm a Commanders beat reporter, but I do know the Commanders pretty well, and I'm pretty confident in those picks. Offensive Rookie of the Year candidate, I think Croskey-Merritt obviously has to be it. And I wonder if his being a 7th-round pick will actually make him a better candidate. And no, the Offensive Rookie of the Year candidate or award is not a quarterback award. There's been plenty of receivers, running backs to win that award over the years. So I think Croskey-Merritt has a legitimate opportunity. The question is, how quickly does he go from being part of a rotation to being like the guy? Because I do think eventually he is the guy. It's just a matter of when that comes. Defensive Rookie of the Year. I told you this when we were talking about Prime FanDuel's Futures Day. Trey Amos, Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate. Look, I'm not joking here, guys. I think Trey has a lot of talent, a lot of length, a lot of athleticism. If he can stay healthy, Marshawn Lattimore on the opposite side of the field, I think Marshawn looks really good too. Could see a return for him to form a little bit, at least more than we saw last year. And if quarterbacks are trying to stay away from Marshawn, they're going to go after the rookie. I think Trey Amos is going to have an opportunity. If he gets 6 interceptions, man, I think Defensive Rookie of the Year is well within reach. Comeback Player of the Year, I'm going to go Deebo Samuel. Look, I know Deebo wasn't totally injured last year. There's a little bit of an illness, but if he counts, I think Deebo Samuel. Look, I've been on the record, guys. I think 1,200 yards offense and at least 6 touchdowns for Deebo Samuel this year is well within reach. To me, that's Comeback Player of the Year material. And Coach of the Year candidate, there's only one head coach here, so it's Dan Quinn. You know what? He should have been the Coach of the Year last year. I told him as much. I don't know if he believed me, but I told him as much, and I meant it, and I mean it this year. Dan Quinn will be your NFL head coach of the year. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Commanders. Next time on Locked On Commanders, it'll be Wednesday. We're going to be doing a mailbag, our first mailbag of the season. Ladies and gentlemen, it is week 1. I saw a few of your favorite Washington Commanders players on Monday in Ashburn, and when I did, I just said, it's like, ready for week 1, and every single one of them. Oh, yeah, man, they're ready for week 1. You're ready for week 1. I'm ready for mailbag, and then we have our first crossover Thursday episode of the year after that, followed by our final preview of the Washington Commanders New York Giants. Man, it is great to be talking about real football finally. In the meantime, if you have questions you want to submit to that mailbag, all you have to do, we added 3 more insiders on Monday. Become the next one. Send your questions in. Join subtext.com/LockedOnCommanders to become an insider. Again, join subtext.com/LockedOnCommanders to become an insider today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL season previews on Locked On NFL. Every division winner, breakout stars, and Super Bowl contender, an 8-episode series with everything you need to know about the NFL season. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you're listening to podcasts, part of your Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if you don't know already, Wednesday, I am part of the Wednesday afternoon crew. Tony Wiggins and I, we go into the barbershop. We have fun with it. I talk a little bit more trash than I usually do here on this program because we're in the barbershop, man. It's supposed to be more fun, a little bit less business-like. So make sure you're checking that out. To the everydayers, I see you every day. I appreciate you every day, and I thank you especially for coming through again today. Until next time, stay safe, be kind to one another. We'll talk again real soon right here on Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.